Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're diving right into a definitive, complete care guide for what just might be the most rewarding houseplant you could possibly own, the Kimberley Queen Fern. A lot of folks know it as the Australian Sword Fern, and let me tell you, this plant is an absolute superstar. It's incredibly resilient, it's a powerhouse for purifying the air in your home, and, huge bonus here for those of us with furry friends, it is 100% pet safe. We're going to break down literally everything you need to know to keep this gorgeous plant thriving.
All right, here's our roadmap for this complete care guide. We're looking at 5 core survival pillars today: meeting the fern, mastering essential light and water, dialing in the ideal climate and soil, tackling long-term maintenance, and finally, troubleshooting common problems. Let's get right into it.
Pillar number 1. Meet the Kimberley Queen, or as it's officially known in the botany world, Nephrolepis obliterata.
Now, if you've ever kept a classic Boston Fern, you already know they can be incredibly finicky and, honestly, super messy. But what's really fascinating about the Kimberley Queen is its structural, upright form. It's way more adaptable than the Boston. We're talking about a plant that easily handles drier air and brighter light without throwing a massive fit. And the absolute best part? It stays tidy. You're not going to be constantly sweeping up a million dropped leaflets from your living room floor.
So, what are we looking at size-wise? Well, this perennial fern is a moderate to fast grower, usually hitting a mature height and spread of about 2 to 3 feet. That dense, symmetrical clump makes it absolutely perfect as a lush indoor floor plant. Or, hey, if you're lucky enough to live in USDA zones 9 through 11, it doubles as a truly magnificent outdoor patio container plant or even a landscape ground cover.
Moving on to Pillar 2, essential light and water. Nailing these two elements is basically the difference between a fern that's just barely hanging on and one that is fully flourishing. Let's talk light first. If you're keeping it indoors, your absolute best bet is an east-facing window that gives the plant some really gentle morning sun. They crave bright, indirect light. Taking it outdoors? It'll thrive beautifully in partial to full shade. But here's the catch, and you really have to remember this. While it's definitely more sun-tolerant than your average Boston fern, you still have to protect those beautiful fronds from intense, prolonged afternoon sun. Otherwise, you're literally just going to scorch the leaves.
Which brings us to the single biggest question houseplant parents ask: how much water does it actually need?
This is the most common point of failure, so let's get it right. The secret here is consistency. You want to check the top inch of the soil. Honestly, just stick your finger right in there. When that top inch feels slightly dry, it's time for a drink. Your goal is to keep the soil evenly moist. Think of it exactly like a well-wrung-out sponge. You'll also want to use lukewarm or room temperature water so you don't shock the root system. Oh, and definitely scale back your watering frequency in the fall and winter when the plant's growth naturally slows down. But rule number 1, the absolute golden rule: never ever leave the pot sitting in standing water. That's just a one-way ticket to root rot.
All right, Pillar 3, ideal climate and soil. This is where we create that perfect environment.
The absolute sweet spot for temperature is right between 60 and 80 degrees Fahrenheit. It loves a nice, warm environment. Now, regarding humidity, while it definitely appreciates higher humidity levels, say around 40 to 60%, it actually tolerates our average dry household air so much better than most other ferns. If your house gets exceptionally dry, especially in winter, throwing a pebble tray underneath it or giving it a light misting will go a really long way.
To maintain that wrung-out sponge moisture level we talked about without completely suffocating the roots, you need a slightly acidic, well-draining foundation. A perfect soil mix for this guy is half peat moss or cocoa coir to hold on to that moisture, a quarter high-quality potting soil or compost to provide the nutrients, and a final quarter of perlite or coarse sand to give it that absolutely essential aeration.
To fuel all those gorgeous new fronds, you are going to need to feed it, but you've got to be gentle. I was actually pretty surprised to learn that Kimberley Queen ferns are not heavy feeders at all. During the active growing season, so spring and summer, just apply a balanced liquid houseplant fertilizer, like a standard 10-10-10, but cut the strength right in half. Do this about once a month right onto the soil after you water, and then just stop fertilizing completely once fall and winter roll around.
Let's shift gears to Pillar 4, long-term fern maintenance.
Please don't let maintenance intimidate you. It's actually really straightforward. First up, pruning. You don't have to worry about shaping this fern at all. Just grab some sterilized scissors and trim any dead or brown fronds right down at the base just to keep things tidy. Second, you'll want to plan on repotting every 1 to 2 years in the spring. A good rule of thumb is to look for roots circling the inside of the pot. When it is time to repot, only choose a new container that's 1 to 2 inches wider in diameter. If you size up too much, the extra soil just holds way too much water and you risk, you guessed it, root rot. And of course, always double check that those drainage holes are totally clear.
And hey, routine maintenance leads us right into my favorite part, propagation, which basically just means free plants. The absolute easiest way to multiply your fern is by dividing the rhizomes in the spring. First, carefully remove the plant and loosen up the dirt. Second, you want to look for natural divisions in those creeping underground stems. Those are the rhizomes. Third, just use a clean knife, or honestly even your hands, to gently pull the clump apart. Just make sure each section has some healthy roots and fronds. Finally, repot these brand new sections at the exact same soil depth they were originally growing at.
Before we move to the final section, we need to bust a super common plant parent myth involving sori. Sori are these small, brownish, dot-like structures you'll see on the underside of the leaves. So many new fern owners completely panic when they see these, thinking their plant is infested with scale insects. But remember, ferns don't flower, they reproduce via spores. If you see these brown dots arranged nice and neatly under the leaflets, pop some champagne. It means you have a super happy, healthy, and mature plant on your hands.
Which brings us to our final pillar, Pillar 5, troubleshooting common problems.
Because look, even with the ultimate complete care guide, things happen. Let's do some quick diagnostics. If your fern develops brown, crispy edges, it's thirsty. You're probably underwatering it, or the air in your home is just way too dry. The quick fix? Consistent moisture and regular misting. Now, if you're seeing yellowing leaves or the base of the plant feels mushy, stop watering immediately. That is a classic textbook sign of overwatering and root suffocation, so check your drainage right away. And if the leaves start looking pale, bleached, or faded, the plant is crying out for some shade because it's getting way too much direct, intense sunlight.
Also, keep in mind that if your fern gets stressed out, it might attract some unwanted visitors. Keep an eye out for these 4 common pests. Spider mites are notorious for leaving fine webbing when conditions are too dry. Mealybugs? They look like little white cottony masses hiding in the foliage. Scale insects show up as immobile brown bumps on the stems. But remember our golden rule? Check to see if they're arranged neatly like spores or scattered haphazardly like bugs. And finally, fungus gnats, which are those annoying tiny flies hovering over wet topsoil. If you spot any of these, isolate your fern immediately and treat the foliage with insecticidal soap, neem oil, or just a swab of rubbing alcohol.
To wrap up our explainer today, I really love this quote from the source material. The Kimberley Queen Fern delivers robust beauty without the high maintenance demands of some other fern species. And honestly, that is the core takeaway right there. This is an incredibly architectural, forgiving plant that just effortlessly brings this vibrant tropical energy right into your living room or your patio.
So I'm gonna leave you with this final thought. Now that you're armed with this complete care guide, are you ready to trade the frustration of a finicky Boston fern for the unmatched resilience of the Kimberley Queen? Apply the 5 pillars we talked about today and just watch your indoor jungle absolutely thrive. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and happy planting.